Every family probably has a stepchild or a neighbor's child that you sort of give the leftovers. Not nice, eh? And that's actually what happens with cargo. In almost every airline, cargo is treated as a stepchild. Once everything else has been done for the passenger side of the business, whatever is left over in terms of belly space, then yeah, let's carry a bit of cargo. In terms of especially staff members, once the staff have used their good lifestyle or lifespan with the passenger side, and you don't want to be nasty and fire them, you sort of promote them to cargo. You resonate with that, right? But the reality, colleagues, is that it is much easier to build strong, good children than to fix broken adults. It's much easier to build good, strong children than to fix broken adults. So what you see happening with airlines especially is that because you have not been paying attention to a good child that you already have, you are paying attention to something that is broken, and you find yourselves in a tailspin, trying to restructure, trying to reform your airlines, and so on and so forth. So we have a perfect opportunity today to address this good child that you already have, and let's make that child much stronger. And I don't have any better person than Sanjeev. Sanjeev from Astral Aviation has proven over and over again over the past 20 years that actually cargo is a viable business. So, Sanjeev, my question to you is, tell me, your experience as a cargo-only operator, what made that strategic decision for you? Why did you make that decision?
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, everyone. Aaron, first of all, you spoke very well, and I think you said a lot of important things there. Cargo never complains, and when it complains, you just lock it up. And we've really worked very successfully in the cargo space for the last 20 years. We fly cargo within Africa and into Europe. But what is very unique about our proposition is that we offer our aircraft to AFRAA members who do not have the cargo expertise, and we actually give them our aircraft so that they can actually build up a cargo model and use it to actually develop a fully integrated cargo strategy. So currently we have a fleet of 7 cargo aircrafts, and we have a collaboration with approximately 12 AFRAA members. And what is really interesting is that only 4 airlines in Africa have an integrated cargo fleet, and the rest of them really do not have any cargo aircraft. So the only connection that they have with cargo is belly capacity. So what we have done is that we've actually connected with AFRAA and with the AFRAA members and offered them the opportunity of using one of our aircrafts to build up cargo capacity up to a point where they can be able to generate revenue without the risk, and then either get their own aircrafts or continue using ours. So this is a business model that we have, and it's been working very well.
Thank you, Sanjeev. So in essence, what you are saying is that the cargo contribution to the bottom line is almost immediate because you are providing the uplift that they need. The business is already there, and all they have to do is almost like plug and play. Brilliant. Now, Mohammed, something has been said over the past 2 days: operational efficiency, operational effectiveness. Cargo systems comes into this space where everybody is talking about the challenges that they are facing. Why are you so brave? What do you offer to these airlines as cargo operators?
Well, that's a good question. From Champ Cargo Systems' point of view, we are a strategic partner of AFRAA. As such, we provide a pure cargo solution across the board for every aspect of cargo. One such solution is the Traxon Global Customs, and what it does is it allows an interconnection between all customs authorities. We have about 60 at the moment, but many of them are actually in Africa as well. So we have a plug-and-play as such to these number of customs authorities, and it eases business, it eases efficiency, and allows you to get your returns much more quicker. Wow.
So it eases business and increases efficiency. And I normally like to ask my audience questions instead of them asking us questions. So I have a question for the audience. What is efficiency? How do you define efficiency?
I think efficiency is just simply output divided by input. So if your output can be, as close to the input, then you have as close to 100% efficiency, which theoretically is not possible, but you get as close to it as possible.
Thank you, Sachin. That's a typical MBA answer. Efficiency is very simple. Doing things right. Got nothing to do with output and input. It's just doing things right. Simple. So Mohammed is saying, well, they have seen that things are not being done simply. Now, they have a solution for you, especially as cargo operators, or Victoria has got an answer. You want to say something? A microphone? We have to maintain gender equality here, right? Yeah, right behind you.
Thank you. Victoria Moores with African Aerospace. I'd sort of bounce the question back again and push it back to the panel and ask whether it's a question of efficiency, which is obviously using the minimum that you can, or effectiveness, so actually achieving the end goal that you're setting out to do.
So typically that question is efficiency, doing things right, effectiveness, doing the right things. But we'll come back to that, Victoria. Thanks for the question. So end of the day, what we have done is now uncovered the basics about this panel. So Sanjeev has got a solution in terms of the business opportunity that airlines already have, but they are not capitalizing on. And Mohammed has got a solution to the way that they are going to be doing the business. Sanjeev, here's another question for you. Maybe what you need to share with us is, why is it that African airlines especially don't want to give cargo a seat at the table? Number one. Number two, how can they give cargo a seat at the table?
Yes, indeed. African Airlines' interpretation of cargo is anything that can be carried in the belly of the aircraft. And it's usually very profitable to carry cargo for a passenger airline. But when you have a standalone cargo product, they actually believe that the risk is very high. There are many challenges with African Airlines, and I think the real the challenge would actually come about would be the lack of infrastructure. For a lot of African airlines, they do not have the cargo infrastructure to fully develop their cargo business, and it also requires an investment. So when you look at the financial resources available to an African airline, where do they really put the financial resources? On the passenger side or on the cargo side? And typically, passenger gets a big chunk of the budget. And this really disadvantages the cargo departments because they have old cargo aircrafts. They're not able to modernize it, and the focus has always been that let's focus on our belly first before we look at developing our freighter market. So this is really where the real problem lies with African Airlines. And when you look at globally, a lot of the successful carriers from Europe and Middle East have got very strong cargo departments. A very good example is Lufthansa and Emirates and Qatar. And this is something that we really need to look at in Africa for African Airlines to also develop their cargo networks and also their cargo fleet.
Okay. So earlier on, Gauso shared with us a slide that showed that most African airlines are losing quite a lot of money for every passenger that they uplift. Sanjeev, do you have an idea how much profit you make per kilogram that you uplift?
So we've been flying cargo for the last 20 years, and we are a very profitable airline. And when you look at the cargo that goes on a passenger aircraft, technically it's 100% profit. The only thing that you're really paying is for the handling. And when you look at the rates for cargo, the rates for cargo are very high. When you've got express cargo, it's usually much higher than general cargo. And when you have mobile phones, also attracts a premium. So when you look at the passenger trends, you've got first class, business class, and economy. And the same thing also applies for cargo when you have express cargo, which actually sells for a very high premium. And some of the the underserved routes in Africa, such as Luanda, Brazzaville, Kinshasa, and N'Djamena, you are actually looking at premium cargo rates. So it's a very profitable thing for a lot of airlines to consider carrying cargo, because cargo never loses money.
Did you hear that last statement? Cargo never loses money. So to the African airlines, we have a question. Why are you not focusing on cargo? Are you more interested in losing money? Or is it because the customers, the passenger side of the business speaks loudest, hence cargo doesn't get a seat at the table? We'll get to that question a little bit later. So Mohammed, another angle for you to look at is, so the intermodal operations that have been successful everywhere else except in Africa, how does your cargo systems approach bring us closer to an effective and efficient intermodal system that brings in road, rail, and sea to be able to support the cargo business?
Well, from the Champ Cargo Systems package of products, we have two such products that the market generally looks at. One is the Longitude and the other one is Cargo Spot. The Cargo Spot is used by the airlines to actually make the cargo reservations, and the Longitude is used by the freight forwarders to make their reservation. Now what this does is it creates a seamless electronic interconnection between the freight forwarder, the airline, as well as now with Traxon Global Customs, the interconnection with the Customs Authority. So you have a seamless supply chain from the get-go. The other thing to add with regards to the electronic connectivity, and also going back to the audience's question about efficiency and effectiveness, the thing is, what we must remember, air freight cargo versus sea freight, the difference really is time. And the way technology is changing these days, from the different types of iPhones, different types of Samsungs, it's about quick returns. It's about getting the money in the bank as fast as possible. And air freight offers you exactly that. The benefits of air freight are numerous. And from an African point of view, my suggestion would be that the Middle Eastern carriers have actually proven that there is a model, and they've learned from the European carriers, the legacy European carriers, on how to actually handle air cargo. And my remark today here at AFRAA would be that the playbook has already been written, and I suggest we actually follow that playbook. I'm sure we'll be successful in the future. Okay,
so we've been hearing a lot about the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and we know that once it is fully operational, it is going to create the biggest trading bloc in the whole world. And we also heard that by 2050, Africa will have the biggest population in the whole world. The two biggest components should definitely lead to an increase in cargo movement. The question is, who is going to move the cargo? Who is going to move the cargo? Sanjeev.
Well, it would definitely be us, but just to look at the bigger picture, currently 85% of the cargo going into and out of Africa is flown by foreign carriers, and African carriers only have 15% of the market share. Now, when you look at the trade lanes of China, Africa, and Europe, Africa, it's dominated by foreign carriers. And when you look at the intra-African market, which is the segment of the market which is very profitable, we're still seeing that there is a very big problem of connectivity where cargo from Africa has to go to the Middle East or to Europe to come back to Africa. And when you look at the African cargo networks, they're actually very similar to passenger. You have a lot of regions which are underdeveloped and not served. And this is a very big challenge that we really need to increase connectivity within Africa. And a part of the SATM vision is to liberalize the cargo sector so that we can increase connectivity. And the bottom line is that African carriers have to fly this cargo within Africa. Because the last thing you want is for a foreign carrier to transport cargo within Africa. That would be that would be a very big injustice to African carriers. And the message is that the opening of the African free trade area will give immense benefits to African carriers. But if they don't take up this opportunity, then somebody from outside will. And we really need to make sure that the cargo that flies within our great continent is flown by African carriers and not from outside.
Lovely. And Mohammed, quick shot for you. What is the message that you're going to give to the audience to take home with them about cargo?
As far as cargo goes, cargo is going to be relevant from today right into the future. It's going to increase. The African continent as such is going to see an increase in air cargo eventually. It's not about waiting for it to happen. It's about market dictating it to happen. It's like today when you order something on Amazon. You have some certification because it actually comes to you the next day. It comes to you within 3 days. It happens because of air cargo. So there's this need in the marketplace today for the supply chain to be fast and efficient. Air cargo fills one channel, and it's actually a very profitable channel within any business.
Thank you, Mohammed. So in conclusion, here is a takeaway for everybody. AFRAA has got a cargo committee that meets on a regular basis, and we urge you as African Airlines to participate. Like Sanjeev has said, 85% of the cargo that flies out of the continent goes on non-African airlines. I think it's a crying shame that we as Africans allow this to happen, number one. Number two, the thing is, you must understand three things. Revenue is vanity. You create revenue because you make your books look good when you issue your reports. It's vanity. It doesn't take you far. Profit sometimes gives you a sanity check that at least you are covering some of your costs. But cash flow is reality. And Sanjeev says every cargo space that you fill with cargo is profitable. If you want to make your businesses profitable, carry more cargo. Ladies and gentlemen, can you help me to thank the panel for me?